Hello everyone, this is ponderonweather. In this update, we're going to be talking about multiple trough injections this week, bringing severe weather as the Arctic air moves out and the warmer temperatures move in. Good morning everyone. This is your March 13th update. I took the day off yesterday. My kids are off spring break, but everybody's back to school and the wife is back to work tomorrow. So let's kind of delve into the details this week. We've got an overall setup, but we're watching these multiple troughs going to be moving in. So this is the overall setup for this morning. We have an area of instability that's kind of taking shape off the Pacific Northwest. That's bringing some instability and some rain moving back into the picture for them. That's going to be diving through the Rockies and heading over Texas into the southern plains here and going through Florida again with more rain for them. And then yet we have another system that's going to be trailing back behind it. So there's going to be areas of instability this week that's going to create some overall weather setups that we're going to be talking about in this video. So let's take a look at the temperatures. Man, that Arctic air was over us pretty much all week long that last week. We had all the snow for the parts of the big chunk of the country, all the way down to the southern plains into the portions of the southeast with that Arctic air this morning. You can see widespread temperatures, really a lot of record lows actually took place as well. I think even Jacksonville made it all the way down to 30 degrees this morning. So that was definitely an impressive shot of Arctic air, but that's all going to change this week. Everything rapidly rebounds and much warmer temperatures move back in. So let's take a look at the overall surface map for this afternoon, as that first initial trough is going to be diving into the Pacific Northwest. That's going to be bringing some rain showers back in the picture into portions of Washington and Oregon, with the snow increasing into the higher elevations over portions of Idaho and into Montana. You can see the rest of the country as where these kind of ridges of high pressure that's going to be dominating. The wind's going to be turning around from the south, and the south wind that's your warmer wind. So much of these areas are going to be really elevating the temperatures as we go deeper into the week. But let's take a look at tomorrow, because things do get active with that trough that's going to be diving through the Rockies and going to be taking shape and heading into Texas, while the rest of the country is going to be dominating with that ridge of high pressure. So that's a warm air that you're going to be dealing with for really much of the country as temperatures rebound in a big way. But underneath this trough, we've got some instability we're going to be working with, as the dew points are going to be starting to elevate by the time we get into that Monday afternoon time frame. We're watching a dry line and a kind of a mini cold front as well, but the dew points are going to be surging well into the 60s to the south, and even the mid to upper 50s right along east of the I-35 corridor here. And with some cold air aloft, this is the 500 millibar showing we've got some pretty cold air aloft that's going to be taking shape at that time frame, and that is going to create the chance for severe weather. And a lot of those are going to be some big hail producing thunderstorms as well. So let's take a look at the setup for the Storm Prediction Center, because they have highlighted that slight risk for severe weather, really mainly east of the I-35 corridor into Dallas, heading into Shreveport, as well as back into portions of Waco, into portions of northeast Texas, where I think the dry line is going to be active and ahead of that cold front. You have to be watch out right around 6 o'clock. I think there's going to be a strong cap over the Metroplex for much of the day, but after about 6, with that combination of that cold front coming in and that cold air aloft, I think that's going to be able to erode the cap in and around the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and you should see some large supercell thunderstorms start to break out after about 6 o'clock time frame. And that's really indicative on the latest HRRR model right around 6-7 o'clock. So we should start to see some of those supercell thunderstorms really mainly east of the I-35 corridor, but these are kind of isolated. So some of these could be some pretty big hail producers, so definitely be on the lookout. But we do have just kind of a small window. So I think it originates right about 6 o'clock in the afternoon and really through about 10. So if you live east of I-35 and definitely maybe east of Highway 75 in and around the Dallas area, definitely be on the lookout for some of those strong supercell thunderstorms as these push into East Texas and head into portions of southeastern Oklahoma, getting into portions of Arkansas here, as well as into Shreveport, and then down to the south, and a little bit less instability as you move further deeper into portions of South Texas and towards like the Houston area. But as we get to that 10 o'clock, you can kind of see these thunderstorms are going to be racing across. So I think it's going to initially start off as a hell-producing threat for several hours there, and then kind of transfer into a nasty squall line and more of a damaging wind threat as we get deeper into the overnight hours, 10, 11, midnight time frame, as it swings across into far East Texas and gets into Shreveport, gets into Arkansas by then. So definitely be on the lookout for that small window, really about 6 o'clock in the afternoon to about midnight and into the overnight hour. So that 6 o'clock, that 6 hour time frame, is definitely going to be on the high alert for those supercell thunderstorms, and put your car under cover, because these could be some damaging, hell producing supercells. But as that system moves across, here's the setup by Tuesday. So that trough is going to be starting to dig in, move further off into Louisiana, getting into Mississippi, into Alabama, and head to Florida again, into the Florida Panhandle. Again, for the rest of the country is going to be pretty warm. So I think much of the northern plains here is going to be staying well above average temperatures. So it's going to be a dramatic turnaround with that Arctic air so locked and loaded last week, and that's going to be losing its punch, and much warmer temperatures for the middle of March is going to be moving in. So, but as that trough moves across into the southern plains and heads towards Florida, yeah, they're going to be under the gun again, and they got to hit hard with all that heavy rain and that severe weather. And you got, yes, another round for severe weather on the day on Tuesday. So heading back into places, into Orlando, into Gainesville, going into all the way down to Clearwater. I mean, Jacksonville, where you hit 30 degrees this morning, you're talking supercell thunderstorms by the time we get into that Tuesday time frame. So definitely be on the lookout and under the gun for those stronger severe thunderstorms into the afternoon hours, into the early evening hours. But yes, as we get into that Wednesday, going into that Thursday, into the overnight hours, about 1 o'clock in the morning, there's that initial trough that starts in the Pacific Northwest, through the Rockies, heads through Texas, goes across the I-25 corridor here, brings the severe weather for portions of Florida here, and that's going to be starting to head up into the Carolinas, with some rain for South Carolina and to North Carolina and portions of Virginia, as we watch yet that other trough that's off the Pacific Northwest now is going to be diving back into the Rockies as well. So we have multiple troughs that we're going to be looking at throughout the week. But there's your surface map as we get into that Wednesday, midnight time frame into Thursday morning, with those rains moving back into the picture into South Carolina, North Carolina, into Virginia. With that secondary trough is going to bring in a little bit colder air. So it is going to be bringing some snow breaking out into portions of the Rockies. There's the low pressure system that's going to be moving back into Texas. And then there's the trough as we get into that Friday morning time frame, setting up a little bit further off to the north. So the initial trough sets up a little bit further south. I think the secondary trough, by the time we get into Friday, will set up mainly over the central plains and bring in some cooler conditions, not Arctic air, because there's no really Arctic air going to be moving into the picture this week, but there are going to be a little bit colder temperatures. We could be looking at maybe a transfer to not just rain, but even some snow potentially starting to break out into portions of Iowa, getting into Wisconsin here as you get into the daytime, into the morning hours on your Friday, March 18th. And then that secondary trough down to the south will bring, again, once it passes Texas and really taps into that, Gulf of Mexico warmer temperatures, that's all it needs. So really these same areas has been inundated with some, heavier rains are going to be moving back into Louisiana, into Mississippi, into Alabama, portions of Tennessee and Kentucky. There's no snow. This is all rain by then. The only snow we're talking about is just far well to the north of that northwest of that low pressure system. And then that will swing through portions of the Great Lakes. But But yeah, this will rapidly move across. There's just not really that much snow technically this week. This system will be moving into portions of Michigan, bringing some more snow for them, as this second system will be tailing across, moving more precipitation back into the picture, into Alabama, into Georgia, back into the Carolinas, and that will head up the East Coast into portions of Pennsylvania, into upstate New York, getting off into Connecticut, into Massachusetts, portions of Rhode Island here, into Vermont and New Hampshire, with just all rain, as we watch another system coming back into the picture for the Pacific Northwest. But yeah, like I mentioned, there's not really that much Arctic air to contend with. I mean, these below average temperature anomalies of just several degrees of just these mini cold fronts throughout the week. But much of the country out west, into the north, and really along the east and the east coast here in the northeast are going to be seeing well above average temperatures for this week. But as we get into really next week, things actually start to get interesting in portions that desperately need the rain. We're actually be watching yet another trough that's going to be diving in. This is, of course, next Sunday by then, March the 20th. But yes, this area of instability could be having a little bit, greater possibilities of much needed rain for portions of Southern California, into Nevada here, into Arizona, into the desert Southwest, into New Mexico, and yes, even portions of Texas, where a lot of you guys are experiencing a severe, if not an extreme drought, into portions of Texas. So this particular system right here, of course, this is a week out, but this could be setting up to be giving some much needed precipitation for the areas that are just desperately bone dry as of late. So this could be a fairly significant event, and something that you probably haven't seen in months, out in this region. So we'll have to watch this and how all this unfolds. But definitely this week, you got to be on the lookout for some of that severe weather. It's going to be heading over Texas. And yes, that'll move across into the southern plains, into portions of Florida. And then that secondary trough will set up in the midsection of the country, bringing some instability and some snow along with it. And then you have that third trough that's going to be setting up by next Sunday here, the 20th time frame, and that's the one that could be bringing some much needed precipitation to areas that are just bone dry, and bringing some precipitation back into play for them. So I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video and definitely leave your comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel to catch the latest update where I protect you before and after the storm.